Righto, how he's going? Um, Working on a couple things today. I'm going to have a look at the marine exhaust manifolds out of that came off the 318. I want to determine. Well, I want to find out for sure if the head's cracked or or maybe the exhaust manifolds rusted through. So anyway, that's just what I'm thinking. I'm going to muck around with that and clean up the 904 and throw it in the car and throw the 318 in the snot block just to start dummying things up and build an exhaust system and build the oil pan for it, engine mounts, build all the stuff that I need, then pull it out, build the engine, hone the bores and clean up bits and pieces, new rings, new gaskets, whatever I've got to do. So yeah, that's just where we're at. I'll get on. Yeah, I'll get on to the exhaust manifolds first. Well, I ran water through this, and no leaks. Even stuck the die grinder in here. Oh, you can't see much. That's a bit better. Yeah, I stuck the die grinder in there. See if I could find a hole. Find a bit of a leak, but no. Let's say the head's cracked because that that doesn't seem to be the problem. So let's say the head's cracked. Move on to the next. Alright, here's an old 904. Started scraping a bit of rubbish off it. She's pretty dirty. Pull the converter out and throw her under the car. Alright, 904's in. 318's on the hook. Here we go. There we are. She's in. Shouldn't be too hard to make some engine mounts. Not really sure where the engine's supposed to sit in terms of left or right. I know they sit way too far to our driver's side because they never changed anything from the American cars. These are built off American steel and they didn't change the floor pan. So yeah, engines sit way too close to one side, but oh, because our steering box is jammed down in there. But there's plenty of space there for a steering box. Only we're on the wrong side of the planet. Well, I started making a set of engine mounts for it, but 318 and 360 don't have the same engine mounts. Just there's a slight difference, not a big difference, but I think I'm just gonna make a motor plate for it instead. That way, there's no difference between a 318 and a 360. I can just swap one in, one out, because I mean this engine, the 318 is just temporary. I'm building a 360. Ultimately, it's getting a 360. So I think I'll start building a motor plate. I started building a set of just steel mounts, solid mounts to go onto the 6-cylinder K-frame. But yeah, motor plate's easier, so and it frees up some options too with the it's got a remote mounted electric water pump, so do that instead. But I'll get on. I'll show you the one I've made for the 440. So you blokes know what I'm on about. Blokes that don't know what a motor plate is. Righto, so here's the motor plate I made for the 440. If we can get focus, we'll be right. Now, obviously it's not finished because I never mounted it in the car, but so 3 bolts, it'll have, you know, when I'm done it'll have water passages through there. But here's the 440 and here's your 3 bolts. Can't see for bracketry, but this is the other 3 bolts just there. Now you unbolt the water pump and bolt this, hang on a sec, bolt this plate behind the water pump, and then these mount down onto the rails. So on a on a small block, it's a different bolt pattern, but it bolts in behind where the water pump goes, and then rests down on the rails. Same principle, you know, bolts in behind the water pump. Yeah, just solid mounts, and still room for everything else, still room for whatever else you want to do, and yeah, good solid way to mount the motor. Universal between 360 and 318, so easy fix, I reckon. Now, because of the shape of this, I mean, that's got some pretty bad pits in it, but because of the shape of this front timing cover, when you run a water pump, an electric water pump like so, you have to run a plate that sandwiches between the two. I've got this taped up because it's kind of fancy and I don't really want to scratch it. Hang on a second. So that plate, I won't push it on, but that plate goes on there and sandwiches between that water pump. I mean, the passages, if you can see it, passages there and back over here feed back into the block. They're pretty straightforward. But I'm not actually using this water pump, but because I got this, I can at least use this as a template. So it turns out pretty good. I'm going to use this as a template to make the motor plate. So yeah, we'll go from there. Alright, so marked centre here. I'm starting to get an idea of what's going to work. So it's actually, I cut it a little bit short, or well, I measured it one side, didn't realise that this wasn't cut straight, this piece of plate that I'm using. I don't have, you know, a piece of plate that I can cut the whole thing out of one. It's sad, but that's, you know, that's what you got to do, what you got to deal with. But piece by piece, and I'll weld them together and it should be alright. So I've measured again, marked, and now I'll take this off, I'll measure it again, I'll center punch them, and I should be right to drill these other ones too, so happy days. Alright, well that's a good start. Good starting point. Well, might level it up now. If you go like this, if you level that, you can see that's not level, but it's the same amount of out of level. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's the same amount out of level as the car's sitting right now if you throw that level down on the underneath the rails. So now if I do the same thing, if I sit that on top of the plate and level it, that way they're all the same. Nip the bolts up where it is. Hold on a second, no good talking about it, just might as well do it. Come on, come on. So
whisker. Beautiful. Double check. Yep, fantastic. Now the position should be perfect. Let's see what measurement we got. We got 14.5. Or maybe 15. Yeah, okay. 1/2 mil tolerance, not bad. Yeah, now I'll make a template for the legs. Alright. So it's hovering there, 1/4 inch roughly. Bit of overlap here, and I'll muck that up a bit. See the hole. But the nice thing about this, if I can get it off, is that it fits as a mirror image on both sides. Fits both sides. If you lift that a little bit. Yeah, but pretty happy with that. Easy little template. And yeah, I'll move on. Well, pretty happy with that. It reverses from left to right perfectly, so yeah. So here's my nice template, all ready to rock. And I've run into a pitfall. I'm doing this stuff on a public holiday. It's a public holiday, nothing's open. So now I ideally just want some 100 by 6 mil flat bar. But what I'm going to have to do is use 150, mark it out, and cut them both out of the same bit of 150. Purely because no shops are open until Monday, and I ain't waiting until Monday. Yeah, so there she is, all marked out, ready to cut her up. Pretty happy with that. Not bad at all. So pretty nice penetration gap there. Yeah, but this one I might just have to give it a whisker more. Other than that, pretty happy. This thing's turning out good. Just clean those joints up here so I can weld it now. At least put a decent stitch or two on it to get all 3 pieces together. Yeah, I mean, pretty happy. If you get with a straight edge here, you can look down it. There's no gap. Straight edge doesn't rock. So pretty happy with that. Yeah, pretty happy with the progress so far. It's a little bit uneven left to right because this one is thicker because of this fuel pump boss. I had to make this actually thinner. So I think this is 95 mil, whatever. The angles are the same, but yeah, this is slightly smaller, so it's actually got a bigger gap there than over there. and just, I don't know, it just looks a little bit cockeyed, but it's good and straight. If you eye it from the end, eye it along, nice and straight. Yeah, pretty happy with it. Like I said, the straight edge shows that it's, you know, straight and aligned well, so it's ready to be tacked up, I suppose. Just found this too, something I turned up on a lathe years ago. It'll come in handy for this too, because I'm running a remote Davies Craig water pump, so now I can just cut a hole in that, weld that there. That's the correct size for a radiator hose for one of these. So hole saw that, weld that on there, and then either feed water from the pump that's mounted on the bottom of the radiator straight into the block, or into the manifolds so that it gives water to the heads first. So I mean, that's what I've been doing. Most of the motors that I'm flogging, running reverse cooling, and it seems to work good, so might do that. But yeah, I'm pretty well ready to weld it, and yeah, I might just muck around, set the welder up and fire away. Alright. Bit of welding, bit of tape on these stainless bolts so they don't end up spatter all over them. But yeah, cool. That's stuck together, so I'll pull it out now and clean it up, weld some more, and keep going. Alright, well, it's fully welded, and I promptly forgot to buff the rust off, so I've got some of the worst welds I've done in my life on here. But yeah, preparing to put the pads down, put the feet down, and yeah, starting to prepare the rails a bit. Well, that's progress anyway. Alright, so got a million clamps on it, and bits and pieces, keep it nice and straight. So this is going along the top edge to stop that motor from stop the motor from going back and forward. So yeah. Alright, so there she is, tacked in place, and it's kind of what it's going to look like. And I got here, I don't know if you can see, got it marked out where I'm going to put my stitches. 1 inch weld, 2-inch gap, 1 inch weld, a 2-inch gap. Same here, and then I'll swap it and stagger them. Righto, all welded up. I'm pretty happy with how straight it is. And if you notice, the welds are staggered. I don't know if you can see that with the light, but in behind here, yeah, so pretty decent, pretty happy. I'm going to clean it up and throw it in. There she is, more or less completed. Pads are mounted in. Yeah. Decent. I can't weld that side until I pull the motor out. But yeah, that's the motor mounted. She's in. Still got to weld this on. I still got to clean up these welds. And yeah, other than that, decent, pretty happy. Next thing I'm doing, I suppose, is the exhaust and then the sump. But I'd say this video is getting too long, so I'll have to make that another video. Alright, so yeah, I'll see you after.